In the last lecture, we've tried to change the data type of this delivery date format to column. And we've seen there have been some errors because the locale or the format we have used did not align with the English United States locale that we have set for our file. So here, this is a problem, and now we want to use a different locale only for this specific column. So therefore, first of all, let's remove this step again. And now we want to again go for this column to the little icon where we change the data type. And now instead of choosing one of these data types directly, we go to using locale. So we can now use a data type and also set the specific locale we want to use. For example, we can go to again date. And now we can choose a specific locale. So the default in here is English United States. And we can see there are some examples for input values. What is a proper format? So for example, in here, we see the day is in the second position, but in our case, the day is in the first position. So therefore, if we, for example, change it to English United Kingdom, we see the sample input values change. The day is now in the beginning. And now if we click on OK, we shouldn't have any issues anymore. And we can also see this if we hover over this little line. There we see 100% of the values are valid. So this is now working well. And now we also can change here again this data type, just set it to date, and do all of the other data types as well. There is one more option we can use to just immediately automatically detect the data type. And this is an option we have also available under transform. There is also the option under the date data type. There is also the option to detect a data type. So if I just go on detect data type, I see all of the data types have been detected automatically. Of course, in this case, price, we still should double check because in this case, it was not properly recognized. So in this case, we still need to find out what we need to change in here. So I could, for example, have a look at those values and see if there are some issues. So we see there are still some NA values. So if I scroll down, and you may want to also click on load more to see all of the values, because this is first just based on the first 1000 values, and then you can load more values. So in this case, we have already recognized that there is this NA value. And if we remove it, and then again go to detect data type, we see now it is recognized as, in this case, a decimal number, which is totally fine. We could also use fixed decimal number. And now we have the question to just replace this data type or just use this previous step. So then it will just go from this 6.5 and then it will add this change on top. So first we change it to 1 and then we change it based on the previous one to the other one. So this is maybe sounds a bit complicated, but in general, we just want to start from fresh and just replace the existing one and not add this conversion on top of the previous conversion. So just usually go to replace current, and then it is also a fixed decimal value. So now we have this available and all of the data types now look pretty good, apart from the sales column, because in here this should be also a numerical column, but in here we have always sales afterwards, and therefore it is not recognized as a number, and we can't work with this as a number, so we cannot add and get an average, and therefore we want to learn how we can also remove some values or replace some values so that we are only left with these numbers. Oftentimes the values that we have in our data are not in the way that we would like to have them. For example, when we go to the sales, so it's a little bit more on the left side, we see that the sales are in this kind of mixture between a number and a text. And that's not very convenient, because if we would like to change this to a whole number, of course, we get all of the errors. So therefore, we want to change some values. We want to replace some values. This can also be the case in another example in this promo bin. Maybe this should not be displayed as very low, but we could want to replace this with adding just some white space so that it says very white space low. And therefore, we want to learn in this lecture how we can replace values. Therefore, first of all, select this promo bin column, and now we want to go to replace values. This is in the home ribbon under the transform section. So if we select it, we can now just enter a value that should be replaced, for example, very low, and we want to replace it with, and now we can just add a white space, so very low. And then I can just click on OK, and then all of those values have been removed. So this is now a lot better, and we can even now change also this sales column. So instead of replacing values, we can also replace even all of the errors. But of course, in this case, if we would replace all of the errors, it would just remove all of those columns. So in this case, if we go into the transform ribbon and then under replace values, we have this little drop down where we can also use replace errors. So in here, for example, we can say all of the errors should be replaced, for example, with a 0. And then we click on OK. And this will, of course, in this case, leave us only with all of the zeros. So therefore, this was not the right choice in our case, but we would like to replace the underlying value. So let's first remove this replaced error step. And something that's also very important to understand what has caused the error is just the possibility to select this field where there's an error. And then we see that this is a data format error. We couldn't convert to number, and we see the details. So this has been the value before. And of course, we can see we should replace this sales. And now, therefore, instead of replacing the errors, we want to replace the text. So first, we need to change it back to the text. So let's go again to the data type icon. And now we want to select text again. And now again, but now the issue is that we still have all of those errors, even though this is still a text. But this is because we have just had a step in between. And then we apply just another step on top to change again the data type of this column where all of these errors have already been applied. So therefore, we need to remove this change data type step. And now we need to go back. And in this step, when we have this selected, we can also now change it back again. So if we want to apply a step, so basically we insert a step, we can just jump to this step. And now we select, instead of the decimal number or whole number, we choose text. And now we want to make sure that, yes, this is not just some accident, that we are somewhere here in between, and we really want to insert a step. And now we are asked if we want to replace the current data type, or we want to add it as the new step on top, which of course we want to just replace it, so we are back with our initial steps. So now it is back to our text value. So this was maybe a little bit complicated, but it was teaching us also that we can jump back, and that it is important sometimes to just replace an existing step, an existing data type transformation. So it is a difference between replacing the current data type and also just adding another conversion on top of the existing one. And now we can go back to our initial step. So the last one, this is where we want to add now additional steps. And in here we can now right click on it, and we can say replace values, or we can also find this just in the home ribbon, and there we have also the option to replace values. So now go ahead and try to replace it in a way that we can transform it into a whole number. You can pause the video, and afterwards we have a look at the solution. So I hope this was working for you and it was not too difficult. We select a column, we go to replace values, and the value we want to find is sales. But be aware, we have also a leading white space. So we want to start with a white space in the beginning, and afterwards we can add sales. And we replace it with nothing. We want to just basically remove it. So I click on OK, and now it is removed, and I can change the data type now to a whole number. And now we have successfully replaced the values, and we have now also changed the data type into a whole number. So now that we have learned so many different things today, we now want to quickly recap it, and also we want to, of course, apply our knowledge in the final project for today, so that you can apply what you have learned today in this little project.
Thanks for watching the video till the end. Please leave your thoughts below so we can discuss more about the topic. If you'd like to suggest a video that could help the community, feel free to message me on X or Instagram. We also share short videos on Instagram, so make sure to follow us there. Feel free to reach out. We'd love to hear from you, and might even create a video based on your suggestion. Thanks again for being part of our community. See you in the next video.